Hi, in this video we are going to go over how to do your final project with a side navigation bar. So if you look at the picture here, it's a pretty simple layout. You have your side nav, your header, and then your main content. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the CSS when we paste it in there. But if you are wanting to watch this video to figure out how to style it, that's going to be a separate video later because a lot of the styling can be applied to all the different layouts. So this video itself is going to be long enough that I didn't want to add styling into it because then it goes from like a 20-minute video to like a 45-minute video. So this basic video is just kind of step by step. I'm going to go through the PowerPoint that's attached in this post as well. If you're just going straight to YouTube, you're not going to see the PowerPoint, so make sure you're going to Google Classroom. We're going to do step by step on how to design a website with that side navigation bar. So step one, and as we're doing this video, I'm going to tell you when to pause it to make sure that you are caught up. So when we do those pauses, make sure that your screen looks like mine, with the exception that your content might be different. So when I go to do like my header section, you should be using whatever you did on that storyboard. You can't really see it because of the light, but you're wanting to follow the storyboard that you have created, not the one that I'm doing. So make sure it follows what you're doing, not me, but the structure should look similar. All right, so step one, you're going to make a new glitch and you're going to rename it. So to make a new glitch, you're going to go up to the top right corner after you've signed in, and you're going to click new project, and then one too far, and then you're going to rename it. And what I would like you to rename it is your last name dash final dash project. If for whatever reason it comes up that it's already taken, or if it gives you that privacy error or saying that it can't be, that URL can't be found or something like that, just go up to your top left corner and you're going to rename it, adding like a 1 or a 2 to it. This might be very common if people have like the same last name. So I'm going to do that now. So come up here, click new project. You're going to click hello web page because that's what we're building, is a web page. And again, it's going to give you some random name to begin with. So mine's necessary political neighbor, I'm assuming. Yep, there we go. I'm going to hit Control A after I've clicked on it, and then erase, and then do Taylor final project, and then hit enter. So pause right now if you've not already created your name. And then once you've created a new glitch and changed the name, unpause. So step two is we are going to prepare our index. So we're going to prepare our index by doing two things. One, we're going to collapse the head section. And the reason we're collapsing the head section is to kind of hide a few lines of code. So that way, one, we're not putting anything in the head section that doesn't need to be in the head section. And it really lets us concentrate on adding that structure and adding the body into it without causing any mistakes later. So one, we're going to collapse the head section, and two, we're going to erase all of the code below the head section. So this is lines 15 all the way down. So we're going to come over, wrong one. That's what it's going to eventually look like. Clicking on my index. To collapse the head section, you're going to press this little down arrow right here. And what that does is it hides lines hides lines 3 through 14. So that means I can't really add anything to that head section without uncollapsing it or decollapsing it. I'm not sure which word it is. So step number 2 was erasing everything in the body. So I'm going to erase it. So pause right now. Your page should look like this when you are done. So also this is a great time, if you've not done already, to show on the right side. So that way when we're making those little changes, you can make sure that it looks like my screen. So the next thing that you are going to do is you are going to copy and paste the HTML code from the layout. So you can either go back to the layout template, or I decided to just go ahead and give it to you right here. So I'm going to copy, that part doesn't need to be there. I'm going to go ahead and copy everything that's in this second cell. So you can hit Control A and then Control C and you're copying it, or you can select it all and copy as well. So coming over here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm showing next to my code, and I'm going to paste it in. This is what it should look like when you've pasted it in, so go ahead and pause if you've not done so already, copy and paste over. The next step, again, it should look like this. The next step is to copy your CSS, and you're going to paste it into your CSS. Remember that your CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. This is what allows the web page to have style, to make it look a fun way, or to really set the appearance for the website. We will come back in a separate video and change some of the stuff in the CSS, especially if you're talking about like wanting to change colors, font size, font styles, things like that. That will be in a separate video. So go ahead and paste it in. And your website should now look different. So this, again, you have that side navigation bar on the side and then your header going over to the right. So I'm going to explain just a couple things real quick in that CSS. So if you notice here, you have like your side nav set 100%. This is your width. So because the width of the side navigation bar takes up the first 180 pixels over on the left, what I've done down here is I've created a class for your main content. And what I've done is I've set the margin left to 160 pixels. So it's not quite that full 180. If I did the full 180, there's a little section between the main content and the side nav because of padding and because of margins to the left and margins to the right that pushes it over. So I've actually made it a little bit less to move it to the left some. So you can mess with that if you want to. If you want it to start directly where it ends, you might want to move it down to like a 140. But then you risk not being able to see it. So real quick, if I got rid of this, this is what happens. And then you have this section here that you can't see. So if I had anything in that main content that's not centered, it's going to be, it ends up being behind that black. So make sure that you have, that main class or content class. And then when you go to add all of your stuff into your website, you're going to want to make sure that it's between div class equals main and the closing div tag. And that'll make more sense here in a few minutes. I just want to make sure to show you that part. For the most part, this styling is going to be the same as we did for top nav, but again, there'll be a video for that later. So if you've not done so already, please make sure your CSS is in there. Pause if you need to pause. Again, making sure that you're putting in that CSS. This is what it should look like, which we just went over. All right, step 5 is adding new pages. So a couple things to remember is that you need to name the pages something that makes sense to your website. Don't just do like 1.html, 2.html. You can't really tell me what's on page 1 and page 2. Instead, name it something that makes sense. So I'm going to do, for those of you that were on that video call, I'm going to do the quarantine one. So my 3 pages, one's going to be about occupying my time, which is going to be my home page, which is my index.html. One is going to be about my changes in teaching, so that one's going to be called school.html. And then my third one is going to be my experiences and feelings, so that one will be experiences.html. So pay attention to the spelling and capitalization because you will need to type it exactly the same into your code because it's going to be looking for that exact match. And then the last thing is to make sure that they end in .html. That is the file type. So when the browser goes to open this file, it needs to know what it's opening. So if it's not .html, it's not going to work. So let's add them. So up here in the top left, new file, school.html. And then I'm going to do another one that's experiences.html. Notice when you add a new file, it is going to be completely blank. We will add we will add stuff to that here in a moment. So pause if you need to pause and add your new pages. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the header, and then we're going to go back and do the navigation bar. I personally like to start from the top and work down, but just to kind of keep it consistent with some of the other layouts, we're going to start with the header and then move to the navigation bar. So in your line of code, wrong one, I keep going here. Oh, that's not what I meant to do either. Sorry. What we're going to do is we're going to find our header, which should be in lines 28 to 31. So one thing that I want to know is that right now you do have, there are comments in the code right now. So that's these light gray text. So you'll see an open angle bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash. And what that allows me to do and allows you to do is it allows you to leave notes in your code for either you to come back later and look for your organization, or if you're ever collaborating with someone, it's your way of speaking back and forth with that other coder. So here it says anything between the following div class tags will be displayed in the header section. So if you click on that div in line 29, you can see that it highlights your opening and closing tag. So anything that goes between those is going to appear in that header section. For consistency and for professionalism, you want to make sure that your header section stays consistent across the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my main title, which will be the title of my web page, and then I'm going to have a subtitle, which is specific to that one single page. So I'm sorry, the name of the website and then the name of the page. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the H1, and the name of my website is COVID Quarantine. And you're going to see that that's going to pop up nice and big. And then I'm going to have a subheading for each one of my individual pages. So again, we talked about how my home page is going to be about how I'm occupying my time. So you're going to see that it comes down here in a slightly different one. You'll also see it's a different color. That's because of the choices that have been currently made in your CSS. Again, there'll be another video for that. So let's take a look. I have this nice H1, my H2. I can go in later if I want to make those bigger. I can make those bigger. So just for simplicity, I'm going to do it over here. So it made it slightly bigger. Again, let's see. So now it didn't get too much bigger, but it did get a little bit. So come back over to your index. Once you've made that header, you're good. If you've not made your header yet, please pause and finalize whatever you want your header to look like. Again, don't worry so much about color, but making sure that the content is in there. So making sure you have that title and subtitle. So this is, again, what it should look like when you are done on a whole page. Now we're going to fix the navigation bar. So we're going to go back up to line 17 to 21 or 22. Again, you're also going to see another comment above your navigation bar that says like div class equals side nav. That's where we're going to do that navigation bar. And again, if you're not 100% sure and if you need more explanation for the navigation bar, there is that YouTube playlist that you can click on and go back and watch how a navigation bar is styled. So remember that what goes between the quotation marks after the A space href, that needs to be the exact name of, or the exact file name of the page. So that's why it was very important to pay attention to capitalization and spelling when making those new pages. Whatever goes between the closing bracket of the first one and the closing A tag, that's what's going to actually be displayed on the website. So I'm going to go through and do it on my page, and then I'm going to come back and pause it on this one so you can, or I'm going to tell you to pause it on this one. So you can either look at this specifically what goes where, or you can watch and follow along as I'm doing it on mine. So coming up here, I found it's lines 18 through 23. So the very first one, A space href. Remember that make sure that you're typing the correct place. Oh, did it again. Make sure that your first page should be your index.html. That's always going to be your home page. And my first page is going to be occupying my time. And you'll see that it changes over here on the left. Sorry, on the right. The next one is school.html. In this page, I want to actually be called changes in teaching. And then my third page is going to be about my experiences and feelings. So experiences.html. And what I want to be displayed is just feelings and experiences. So what I can actually do as it pops up, I'm going to take a look over here. I want more space, so I'm actually going to add a line break between each one to kind of space it out a little bit. You don't have to do this. This is just for me. I like to have a little bit extra spacing to differentiate between the different ones. So what I could even do if I wanted it to be a little bit more is I can create horizontal lines between each one. So again, you can design this however you want to design it. This is extra. You don't need to do this. I'm just doing it, to break it up a little bit. All right, so pause right now if you've not done so already, and make those changes to your navigation bar. One quick note is that we did not use the class equals active on this navigation bar. We did use it in the About Me page. If you liked class equals active, you can add that attribute to your code. What you can do is just go back and copy what you already had in your About Me page. Make sure if it says top nav, though, that you're changing it to side nav to make sure that it's applying to the correct class. You can either copy it or you can go back to W3 Schools and add it. One little thing is to make sure to change it to the correct line of code for each page. That was one of the common things that people got marked off for on the About Me page, is that they didn't change the class equals active to the second and third page, and instead that home bar or that home link was highlighted the whole time, and you want to make sure that you're changing that to whatever page you're on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually copy everything that we have in our index and move it to our other two pages. And what that allows us to do is create consistent content on the different pages without there being an issue. So Control A, Control C. I'm going to go to experiences, going to paste that in. I'm going to paste it into my school as well. So this next step is very important. I want you to check to make sure that everything is working before we continue on. So what I'm going to do is come up here where I had opened it to a new browser in a new window. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Occupying My Time. It worked. The way that I know it worked is it didn't come up with either A, a blank screen, or like a 504 or 404 error. Clicking on Changes in Technology, I know that this worked because up here it has in my URL the /school.html, and I know that it's done loading because it's no longer loading up here or right here. So again, clicking on Experiences and Feelings, you can see that it's loading, and I can see here that it says not found, which means that I have an error. So I'm going to go back to my code. I'm going to click on my index and check here. Oh, I spelled experiences wrong, so I'm going to add that E. I'm going to come back up here, check to see if it works. It now works. It says experiences.html and it's not giving me that not found. And I'm going to fix that same mistake in my other 2 pages. It's very important to make sure that your navigation bar works, because if it doesn't work, I can't see your other 2 pages, and either can your audience members. So it's very important to make sure that you're able to click back and forth between your 3 pages. So the next step, we're getting close, guys. There's only a few more steps. The next step is I want you to change the title tags and the subtitle for each page. We haven't changed the title on the index yet because I wanted us to change them all at the same time, so that way you can really see what the different tabs look like. This was another common mistake that a lot of people made on their About Me page. So as you can see here, your title is found in your head section. Remember that you're not going to immediately see that change because the title is found up in the tab. So until we click on the different pages, and unless you have that separate window up, you're not going to see the changes immediately. But if you can see here up at my top, I'm going to go to my index. I'm going to decollapse my head section. You can see here in line 4, it still says hello. And then up here in this tab, it says hello as well. So as I change that, I want you to pay attention. So the first one is about occupying my time. And that fits perfectly up in that little tab. You want to make sure that you're not doing anything super long. So for instance, when I get down to page 2 or 3, I'm not going to write out feelings and experiences because that's going to go longer than the tab allows, and I'm just going to do experiences. So change your second and third page. So again, this is another reason why it's important to name your HTML something appropriately, because I can just look at that and I know what I need to change, both my title and also my subtitle down here. So I'm going to change, again, my title, which is up in line 4, and this is what is displayed in the tab. Goodness, guys, I'm having a lot of issues typing today. So experiences, and then I'm changing down here my subtitle. So pause right now and make those changes. I'm going to check to make sure, again, that they've changed appropriately. So here is my index.html. I have occupying my time, and that is what's up here. And then I'm going to click changes in teaching. And I can see it changes up here, changes in teaching, as well as down here. I'm going to check my feelings and experiences. And again, my subtitle changes, and so does my tab. So now I'm ready to move on to, I believe, step 10. Again, this is going to step-by-step show you. So again, it's showing you where the tag and where it correlates. And now we're down to adding content to our main section. So what's nice is that with the side navigation bar, it gives kind of like a simpler layout that anything that you want to be displayed on that website, you're just going to add right into that main content section. So it'll be like div class equals main, and then you're going to put it in there. The one thing that you need to check is that remember that the code it follows what's at the very top all the way to the bottom. So you have your header section in your main content, within your main content, so it's nested within it. So you want to make sure that if you're wanting the rest of your website to go below your header, that you need to be coding it below that closing div for your header section. So I'm going to double check. I'm actually going to copy what I've already used to code this website, and I'm just going to paste it in there, again, to kind of cut down on time. So that's this over here. It's a list of things I've been doing. So I'm going to copy it. Coming over here, and you'll see, again, so for me right now, it's on line 39. It says add your main content that should be displayed under the header here. So what I'm going to do is, again, this is where you could just start typing in whatever you want to type in to make sure that it's going below that header. I'm just going to paste in what I've already copied. And then I copied the div, and I only should have copied above. Take a look at, I'm in the wrong one. Again, making sure that you're in that correct file that you're wanting to be. I'm going to erase this because I've copied it. So again, it says add your main contact. That should be displayed under the header here. Look for those comments in your code. They're there to help you and kind of navigate and outline where you should be coding. So looking at the website now, I have my header section. I have my navigation bar that's now working. And then I have now added content to that page. So it's not a lot. Remember that with each page that you need to make sure that you're adding pictures. So this, I might add a picture right next to like the how I've been spending my time and float it to the right. Or I could float it to the left and put the pictures over. I could center it. So make sure that you are still adding those pictures to your websites. And you're using those styling tips that we've been given. I believe you're going to repeat these for pages 2 and 3. So you're going to be adding that same material, and then you are done, my friend. Remember that you do need to style it. Check out that YouTube CSS playlist that I've created, and it's going to be shared along here. So if you've forgotten, don't do that. If you've forgotten everything that you've learned so far, it won't be that hard to get it back. I reteach myself CSS and HTML every year. Here is a playlist of everything that we've learned so far. Like I said, there'll be another video coming very soon of how to style specifically some of your CSS and going over some of the stuff that we added. But basics like H1s and your different headings, paragraphs, line breaks, horizontal lines, list, inserting pictures, adding a navigation bar. You don't have to worry about that because we just did it. How to style it might be a little bit different with your side nav. So just instead of looking for top nav, you'll look for side. Going over some of your like inline, internal, external. This is how to, in general, add styling choices to your website, and then sharing your links to edit. So that's the last thing that I want to go over. When you go to, if you, for whatever reason, you're needing to ask help, and you probably will, and there's no shame in that because this is something new. When you go to ask me for help, what I'm going to ask is that you click this share button and that you invite others to edit. And by sharing that link specifically with me, what I'm able to do is go in and add more content, or I can give you very, very specific feedback and say, like, in line 7, do this. If you're just sharing the link for your website, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So please make sure that you're using this specific link to share with me. I hope this helps. I can't wait to see what you've picked to do your websites on. Again, remember that if you are needing help, that you are sending me a Google chat, you're sending me an email, that you're asking for help, so that way we can make sure that we get these websites done and that they look amazing. Again, I'm here if you need help. I hope this helps. Bye, guys.